Welcome to a regular monthly meeting of the Garrard County Board of Education. We appreciate all of you that have gathered here tonight. This is our second meeting. We appreciate you being here as well as those of you that have joined us on the social media. At this time, if you would, I would like to say that all 4 board members are present. One is not able to be here. Clerk, 4 board members from Superintendent here. And at this time, I'll call the meeting to order, and as we begin this meeting tonight, we first of all for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. If you're able, if you would stand and join me in pledge the flag at this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may be seated. And at this time, I'll call for a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Mr. Square made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hurd seconded. All in favor, let me know by lifted hand. The agenda is adopted. Item number 2 is communications. And again, I say this every time we have recognition. One of our favorite parts of a school board meeting when the schools are in session. And Mr. Stroll, I'll turn it over to you.
I'm not sure if Mr. Benton is here tonight or not. I haven't seen him. But let me go ahead and we'll read it anyway, okay? Bill Benton is transportation and bus driver, and he's been selected as the Danville Office Equipment Support Staff Member of the Month. Mr. Benton's a great example of the commitment you find in our transportation department. He rarely, if ever, misses a day of work. That's probably why he's home tonight, to make sure he doesn't miss tomorrow. In addition to running his normal morning and afternoon routes, he also handles ATC runs during the day. And this makes it possible for our students to have access to opportunities they wouldn't have without the service provided by Mr. Benton. He's also a great example of an individual committed to doing what's asked. In order to ensure he uses the new time clock system correctly, he's set multiple alarms on his own phone so he never misses a clock in or a clock out time. So thank you for your commitment, Mr. Benton. Today, we also will recognize the Whole Latte Love Teacher of the Month for September 2022. It's Miss Brittany Watts from Lancaster Elementary. So if you would come up. Brittany Watts is such a bright light to her students. Students in her kindergarten class look forward to going to school every day because of her. She communicates with parents and guardians almost daily. She always has a positive and upbeat attitude, and best of all, she connects with her students. We all know how special and important it is for a teacher to connect and inspire a child. We're so thankful for what she brings to LES students and parents specifically, and Garrard County in general. Thank you for making a difference in the lives of these young students. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Now our students of the month. Our CDR student is not here. I believe she had a soccer match tonight, but let me go ahead and share information about Meredith Bailey, who's a 5th grade student. Meredith is a student that any teacher would love to have in class. She always has a smile on her face and is willing to tackle any task with a good attitude. She always gives her best effort and is often seen helping others when she notices they may be struggling. She's a natural leader and a great role model to her peers at CDR. So we're happy to recognize Meredith as the student of the month from CDR. We'll make sure she gets her stuff when we have an opportunity to provide that to her. Ms. Davis, if you'll do Lancaster for us. Our Lancaster student of the month is Kiana Cowan. She's a 5th grade student. She's on her way up. Kiana is always smiling. She has a positive attitude, and it just brightens your day to see her. She is a conscientious student, always helpful to her peers and her teachers. Kiana is a model student and loved by all here at LES. Congratulations, Kiana.
Is Drayden in here? You don't like it, right? Okay. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Our Paint Lick Elementary Student of the Month is Macy Fife. Macy is another 5th grade student, and Macy's a joy to have in the classroom and is always willing to tackle any task with a positive attitude and a smile on her face. She's a true leader and works very hard to support her peers around her. Macy's always the first to offer to help with anything a teacher needs and is a great addition to every classroom she's in. She's a wonderful student, and Paint Lick is lucky to have her. Congratulations, Macy. Our Garrard Middle School Student of the Month is Dalton Isaacs. Dalton is a 7th grade student, and he is a fantastic student that consistently meets all of the pride expectations at GMS. He comes to class on time, prepared, and ready to work. Dalton actively participates in each lesson by staying on task, completing his assignments, and engaging in class discussions. Both his respect and kindness towards others have also been noticed and appreciated by all his teachers. Keep up the great work, Dalton. Congratulations. Garrard County High School Student of the Month is Laurel Christ. Not sure that Laurel is here tonight. But Laurel is a hardworking senior and a dedicated student. She's taken on more leadership roles this year. She is on the school news and is working with Mrs. Arnold and Ms. Isaacs to explore career options. She's always responsible for completing her work and is a strong example of her peers in integrity, ownership, no excuses, and self-control. So congratulations to Laurel, and again, we'll make sure she gets her stuff.
All right, thank you, sir. Item B is site-based decision-making of council minutes, and I hope all our board members have been able to look over all those minutes, and that's just for our information. Item C is audience comments. I didn't see.
We have had no one asked to speak.
We have no one asked to speak. Item D is board member comments. You're going to be hearing some good news about our construction update here in just a little bit. And part of that construction update that you'll see is on the high school project is the aesthetic part of it, the building and interior finishes. And a committee is going to be formed from Garrard County High School, from the district, plus board members, and those committee personnel, they're going to be appointed, I would say, in the very near future. I wanted to point that out to you. Any other board member have anything you'd like to share? Thank you. Then we will move on. And item E is superintendent, and you're going to share.
So you all have asked me to provide updates on a monthly basis. These are available online to anybody who'd like to dig a little bit further into them. If you take a look at them, we will be reporting each month to you on Standard 2, which is instructional leadership. If you take a look at that, you'll notice that we have reached a point where we have now selected our deeper learning teacher leaders. We've also engaged the ATC, and Gifted and Talented to be a part of that. On September the 19th, Monday, our students will not be here, but our teachers will be. We'll be doing a significant amount of work around the learning expectations that we have. The 3 elementary schools will be working together. The high school and the middle school will be working independently on that, but bringing all 3 of our elementaries together, we're excited about. Human resource leaderships, we've had our first new teacher academy. It was a successful opportunity. We've actually added another teacher who started for us yesterday through option 6. So we filled a special ed position with that. We are working on a new teacher and student teacher recruitment program. We've never talked about recruiting student teachers before, but it is now a conversation that we are having. We had a meeting with WKU and we hope for a potential MOU or MOA with them to start a grow your own teacher program. If that comes into fruition, I think you'll be excited about what we can share there. Trace Creek now has our drawings and we're getting ready to announce our first bid package. So under managerial leadership, we're working toward that October the 4th. A pre-bid meeting will go on October the 18th. We'll actually open bids and we're considering groundbreaking. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes in November. And then collaborative leadership, we're continuing our work with city, county, and legislators on a long-term and short-term answer for our wastewater treatment issue at CDR. We are doing some additional work that we had, or not some additional work, but some additional consultation with Summit engineers who've been working with the city on their project to see if we can come up with some additional ideas from them. And then we have a meeting next week to highlight our new nursing program. We have several folks coming in, including legislators, to take a look at that. And we had a special meeting with that group yesterday. So as you can see, we have a lot of things going on. Never would suggest to you this is my work. It's a work of a whole lot of folks sitting out there to make happen. So we will do our best to keep you up to speed on that at all times.
Thank you, sir. And number 2 is the concerns of vehicle purchase.
So this will be in the budget that we ask you to adopt in a few minutes, but we wanted to be very transparent with you about this. We had some additional revenue that became available to us maybe about 6 weeks ago. And we've allocated those funds in a variety of locations, including all of our schools and the high school. But one thing that we felt like we needed to do was a one-time expense and secure 3 different trucks 2 for our maintenance department, 1 for our transportation department. We feel like if we make this purchase, it will put us in a really good shape with those items. And while it's part of the budget, we just didn't want anyone to be surprised when a large total came out around vehicles that weren't coming out of the transportation budget. So it's been a great find for us to be able to have this money, to not know that it was coming. Can't guarantee you that it ever comes again. So that's why you don't see us asking for personnel, because that would be a reoccurring cost, and we don't want to get into that. So we hope this is a good expenditure of some funds. Happy to answer any questions you might have about that.
If you may have any questions. And let's move on to item 3, the construction update.
So, as Superintendent Stoll mentioned, Jeff here to talk about, we were able to turn drawings over. And Jeff will go into the details of what's coming forward next, but phase 1 or the site improvements plan has been turned over from Dr. Salmon Carter's Trace Creek. From Dr. Salmon Carter's perspective, we're continuing to work on bid packages, phase packages 3 and 4, which will be the fields and facilities, and then the gymnasium package. We've kept those separate. In that, you'll see us really starting to ramp up our meetings with staff and administration and board members and all, to start finalizing what those fit and finish will be for the buildings, so that we get y'all a product y'all can be proud of. I think our first big meeting to deal with that will be with our fields and playing surfaces, which is coming up relatively soon. So it's on our agenda for next week.
All right, I'll go over a couple things Mr. Stoll had already covered. We did receive the drawings and specs from Dr. Salmon Carter today. We finished that part of review. We'll get those submitted to Lynn Imaging, which is a plan room to advertise the job to multiple contractors. Let's see here. We did get a pre-bid meeting scheduled for October the 4th. I believe you guys are on fall break that week. Mr. Stoll is going to make accommodations for us to have access to the high school to have that meeting with the contractors that's going to be interested in looking at the job. We'll have the bid at, let's see here, October 18th, be a Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Once the bids are turned in, we'll review all the bids with Buffalo Center Park and, provide our recommendation. Hopefully the next Wednesday, so you guys can review at your board meeting on the 20th. Excited to get things going and get things started.
So simply echo everything that they said. If you look on your screen right now, one of the things that I was asked to consider doing was share more information than just what's going on at the high school. But I want to make sure that everybody sees that as well. We do believe that there's a shot at doing groundbreaking in November, and we'll obviously give you more information, set a date on that, and you see the same thing that Dr. Browning talked about a second ago, the building and interiors, and we'll be working on creating a recommendation to the board for that. Other projects that are underway, LES is very close to having the tile completed, and we're hoping over the next breaks that we have that will be completed. We're also looking at LES for windows. Our problem there is we can't find bidders, but we want to be clear that we're continuing to look to find people who can do that for us. And once we have that, we'll be able to move forward. The ATC and the GEC both will be receiving safety vestibules over fall break and Christmas break. So that will put us in a spot where we have the most secure environments for our kids that we possibly can. At the middle school, we're gathering information on canopy replacement, sidewalk replacement, the front area removal that has existed ever since the high school was originally there, and then asphalt replacement. Our elementary playgrounds were delayed because of supply chain, but now we have an estimated begin date of mid-October for that. It is about a 10 to 12 week project. You all approved those last year, and we appreciate you doing that. We wish we were showing you the end product, but as most of you know, supply chains have been an issue, but we're getting very, very close on that. So again, all of those are things that are either being looked into or underway in some capacity. So we have completed some other projects. I've included that for some of you to take a look at. We just want to make sure that we keep everybody informed what's going on. So happy to take any questions you have regarding any of the projects.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Stoll?
It will.
Okay.
Library. I assume it's library at the high school.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna open the bids.
Yes, sir. If that wasn't clear, I apologize.
Just clarify, just say library. We have several.
We do. Bid opening will be at GEC at the library.
Any other questions? All right, if there are none, item 4 is personnel changes since last meeting.
That's simply provided to you to keep you up to speed on where we are. And as I shared with you, we've added some individuals and we're happy with that. The fact that we were able to do it through an option 6 is a good thing, and we're always happy when that occurs. So happy to answer any questions you might have there as well.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Stoll? All right, if not, we'll move on to item 3, reports, and item A under 3 is Ms. Joanna Stevens is going to give us a Kentucky Board of Education update.
So I'll be reporting on our August board meeting. So this was our retreat. So instead of meeting in Frankfurt, we met at Lake Cumberland State Park. And it was also a surprise retirement dinner for Mr. Horstman, who has Garrard County connections, which Lake Cumberland, I think, is his second home. He felt very comfortable, and we met at the resort, but we did have a boat ride on Lake Cumberland. So it was a nice opportunity to get to know the other board members socially, not just professionally in our board meeting. We spent most of our time talking about United We Learn. That this is our big initiative statewide, and focusing on creating a vibrant learning opportunity for every student, encouraging innovation, and in collaboration with our community. So this is, I don't want to call it the commissioner's big idea, because he's been very intentional on how this was developed. He had listening sessions across the state, where he talked to students, teachers, parents, caregivers, community members, to just listen to their needs. And so once he had all these, I think he did call them like listening sessions, they were virtual to provide more access. And they have developed those 3 big ideas with the United We Learn report. the world is changing. So that's kind of driving the United We Learn, that if the world is changing, we want to make sure our school is changing to make sure our students are prepared for that life after school. So the first day of our meeting that's our working meeting. And this was different than our typical board meetings. Much like you all, we have an agenda and everything is like 3 minutes for this, 4 minutes for this. But on the working day, we did a lot of group work and partner work. More discussions than I've seen in our other board meetings. And just like the classroom, like when I'm teaching and I'm doing group work, things take longer. And we got off schedule, which was the first time I had seen that happen. But that's what happens in class. If I teach very traditionally, I can cover a lot more content. But if I do deeper learning, it takes longer. But it is more valuable for the students to get that experience. So we looked at data. We had little task cards. It varied on different topics, everything from things happening in schools to social media, to race issues, political things, just anything our students are being exposed to. And we talked about how those things have changed in the last 5 years and how those affect our schools. But then we also looked at, he had 4 different future school scenarios. And these are very different than what we have now. And we discussed how instruction would change, how teaching would change, how assessments would change as the world changes. So a lot of it was all very hypothetical, but it was interesting to think about how things could change. So moving from vision, he has spent the commissioner has worked in the last year creating the United We Learn vision. After our board meeting, the state has received a $3 million grant to help us address the assessment issue, which is a teacher that's, I love the idea of deeper learning, but if my students are still going to take a standardized test in the spring, I hate to use the word, but that's the game we're playing. I want to prepare my students for that test. Personally, I teach 2 AP classes. One of them is AP Calculus. It's a very traditional multiple choice free response test. But I also teach AP Computer Science, and that 60% of their score is a test, but 40% the students make an actual app that they can download on their phones. So the fact that I get that project-based learning, I can teach that class completely different because the students are assessed differently. So the fact that we have this $3 million, we have money to dive into how can we change our state assessments to be more competency-based and get away from our traditional assessments so our students can have a richer learning experience in the classroom. This is a proposal for the statewide portrait of a graduate, meaning that when students graduate high school, that they will have some type of portfolio, I hate to use that word, but some type of collection to demonstrate their critical thinking, their communication, their citizen, they're a collaborator, they're a learner. This is a proposal. We did spend time talking about it. I know there will either be an added innovator or it will be combined with one of those that's already there. But there are districts that already have some models of this. Jefferson County has their backpack program. Shelby County has a pretty strong one. But we heard from some of those that are already implementing some form of this portrait of what do we want our graduates to be, more than just how many credits they have, but what skills do we want them to have when they leave high school. Other topics that we discussed, we heard from the continuous improvement process. So you all know test scores come out in October. So they described the whole turnaround process of what happens when schools are in the bottom 5%, the bottom 10%, and described that process. We do meet again in October, and I do know that that's going to be a big focus of our meeting. We received yesterday a letter from the Secretary of Education, the Federal Secretary of Education, about the upcoming release of test scores. We also talked about virtual learning. So there's been some changes policy-wise, and that now we can have virtual learning starting in kindergarten. but a big push that we're meeting the whole child. That not just they're getting content, but that we're meeting their emotional needs, we're meeting their social needs, they're getting check-ins multiple times a day. We heard from Bullitt County, they have, it's a very impressive virtual learning system. And they shared some of the things that are working well for their district with the virtual learning. And then we also heard from the KETS. They did a huge presentation starting in 1992 when KETS started. That was interesting to me because that's the year I started kindergarten. So I could follow along to see as a student and as a teacher all the changes they made with our technology in our schools. They are very concerned that districts have put a lot of money into technology and used a lot of ESSER money with COVID. And they're concerned that we have to maintain that money. We have to maintain our investment in technology even when our ESSER money runs out. But they did talk about the importance of our students graduating, being digital learners and digital literate when they enter our workforce. Some other things upcoming, I don't know if you all are planning to attend the regional fall meeting next week in Anderson County. So that's on my calendar too. Also, I have the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, and that is in Los Angeles at the end of this month. So I'll be presenting there. Our next state board meeting is in Logan County. We'll be touring their tech center. And then as far as the National School Board, the National State School Board Association, they have a new training thing that I completed this summer. But now I'm on a math improvement study group. So it is neat to talk to other state board members who have a math background and talking about changes nationwide with math education. So that's kind of the state school board. Do you all have any questions?
You got it? Very good. I told her, I looked at this presentation before and I asked her, did you do that? She said, yes. I did that. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate it.
She's got a couple more.
I do have one more thing. I don't want, the state school board, it is part of it, but what I do every day is my students. So if I'm gonna come here, I'd like to share a little bit about my students. So I have 110 students. And so they all shared, we start the year by sharing their 5-year dream. So that's our bulletin board. And we come back to these dreams, maybe not daily, but at least weekly. We reference back to our end goal, that not all students want to learn the quadratic formula. But we can go back to, helping us remember what we want to do, and that we have to be better collaborators. We have to learn to persevere. We have to solve problems to make those dreams a reality. So I call them my dream chasers, and so that's why I do what I do every day. And you all are more than welcome to visit my classroom and meet my students. That is the best part of my job.
You got it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have
Sorry.
a question.
Go for it.
It's touching on what you were just taking a think about. It's a spot that's near and dear to my heart. Because we do ask our young men and women to decide what they're gonna do
Yes,
at a very early age.
yes.
And you and I, through experience, know that often what we thought we wanted to be when we grew up, that can change many times.
Mhm.
Do you, even at the level you're teaching is, I think you're mostly senior classes, or you have a mix of junior and senior?
I really have freshmen through seniors,
Oh, you
mainly
have-
sophomores and
You have
juniors.
the whole 9 yards,
Yes, I have
so
the- I have all, yes.
you get the full measure of it.
Yes.
But do you see a significant percentage of those kids that are still struggling, deciding
Oh, yes.
what do they want to do, and is what they thought they want working out, and how are we as in Garrard County schools
Mhm.
doing as far as, are they locked in pretty much to what they decided before, or do they have an ability to change as their ideas change? I'm not saying wholesale because, you know, some of us can't make up our minds from one day to the next.
Right.
And I'm not saying that any of our students are that way, but I know from personal experience that sometimes I have a hard time deciding from one day to the next, I can change my mind. But can we adapt to that and what we have in place now? Is it adaptable enough to work with those young men and women?
Mhm. I think absolutely that they can change their minds. I have some students who I've had, this is the third year I've had them, and they have the same exact dream, and their dreams are very specific. I'm going to this college, I'm majoring in this, I'm gonna live here. And then some of them know they are more general, and that's okay. Some of them focus on, in 5 years, I wanna be happy, I wanna be healthy, you know, I wanna be independent. And it's like, that's perfect, that we all meet the different needs.
But get a job.
At the high school, we do have our pathways. I would love if the state would establish an exploratory pathway, so students could take an ag class of business, family consumer science, they can see all the different options. But they can definitely change their mind. And when I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be an accountant until I took accounting 1 and realized it wasn't a lot of math, it was just a lot of numbers.
You know, as you went to college, what you initially thought and the classes that were available.
Mhm.
It's not all, the classes you need to take to do what you want to do are not always available easily.
Yes,
It seems like sometimes it's scheduling when you go on to college is, you need 2 classes and both of them are at the same time on the same day.
yes.
I don't know how that goes. We won't get into that because it seems suspiciously like getting an extra year or semester of coursework in to get what you need to get a degree in that particular field. But I'm glad that you see that, and that's good. And I really like this last part. It's really seems to hit home with the kids, and you're building a rapport with them, and that's really important in being able to teach. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Real quickly, on what Mike's touching on, the thing that I see is until you throw that out at them, a lot of kids never thought about, what do I want to be when I grow up? And so at least this gets them involved in the conversation and puts them into the exploratory area to where they're at least beginning to look and say, am I interested in this? What do I need to do if I take it in this direction? So I like that, and I like what's going on, and I like the fact that at least we are entertaining the notion that there is flexibility, and we're entertaining the notion that we're here for you, and what can we do to enrich your pathway to that particular destination. I like that.
Along with something you said too, I stopped in, was it yesterday at Lunch Elementary? Oh, it was Monday. And Miss Davis was there, I didn't realize she was there, and they were doing, trying to encourage students to read. And the librarian explained to me how that was done, so, you know, whatever particular genre they were interested in. And I think what you just said, if we could come up with a pathway like that to let a child pick and choose, well, I think I would like this rather than that or something. I really do like this. And you mentioned something about the regional meetings. And we're planning to attend. Would you like to share with them where the regional meetings are going to be held the next 3 years?
So the last 3 years, they've been in Anderson County. The next 3 years, they'll be in Garrard County. So Brother Jerry has been selected to be what's the correct title?
Regional chairperson.
Regional chairperson.
And you're the secretary.
So what we're excited about the chance that we'll have to show off the high school, middle school, GC, the elementary schools, things like that. So we originally thought we were going to keep the secret till next week, but somebody let the cat out of the bag. So just so you,
It came out in an email. So.
Yeah, I was in the email too.
So, but we were excited for him to be named to that position. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, I'm sorry.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I hope. Item B is treasurer's report.
So you have had a chance, I believe, to review this. If you take a quick look, you'll notice that you are ahead by about $2 million over where you were this time last year. A large chunk of that has to do with the 5 cent that's being matched now for your third nickel. We're happy where we are at this point, obviously, but you've also indicated that you want us to work on some projects, and so we'll talk about that when we move into this coming year's working budget. So if you have any questions relative to this, happy to address those. Ms. Coffey's here, and she would be happy to address anything that you might have for her as well.
You got all the answers. All right, thank you, sir. I'm a little disappointed in item C. Do you have any encouraging news when you share this?
I don't. As we all know, we continue to watch bonding potential. Your bonding potential is down this month to just under $38 million. You'll see the interest rate has gone back up there, and we'll continue to watch that as we move forward, as we're looking at the bid packages as they come in, and we will keep you informed on a monthly basis because of the support that we get from Garrard Financial.
Thank you, sir. And item D is bills as presented.
You all receive the bills each week, but then we collect them for you to allow you to see them in one central location. So anybody in the community who's interested in what bills have been paid, they can certainly link into this and have a chance to see that as well. This is all public information.
Okay, thank you, sir. Item 4 is consent agenda, unless any board member has any question or wants to pull anything out of the consent agenda. I hope you've had time to look this over. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hurd. Made the motion, Mr. McQuarrie seconded. Any comments or questions? All in favor, let me know by lifting hand. And all board members present were in favor. The consent agenda is approved. Item 5 is the action agenda, and item A is to approve the working budget for the 22-23 school year.
It's that time of the year for you to make that decision about where we're headed. If you take a look at the budget, you'll see the unaudited beginning balance is $4.3 million. We project to end at about 3.4 because we're going to do some projects and reduce our contingency. In this, we've also indicated that we could drop the contingency to the 12% that we've talked about previously. If you all want to approve it as a 12%, we can do that tonight. If not, we can do it at 14% and then come back to you later once we get to a better understanding of what projects we want to work on. But what we're going to ask you to do is approve this and let us move forward with some of those projects that we've talked about, knowing that we still keep ourselves in a healthy location and allow us to do the things that we're needing to do. And you'll notice that 79% of what we do budget-wise is really built around the expenditures and our payroll, and everything else goes to continuing the work that we need to do in the district. So this can be adapted throughout the years. We need to do that, and as things adjust, and maybe we'll be able to come to you and say the same thing that we said earlier about the finances for those vehicles. Maybe somebody will send us some extra money. We'll be happy to take that if they want to do so. So, that's what we hope for. My recommendation is that you approve this working budget for the 22-23 school year.
Right now, the 14% contingency.
That I would leave up to you. If you want to modify that with a motion to say 12%, we can do that. If you want to say 14, that's fine.
Okay.
It's entirely up to the motion.
All right, so, yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to leave it at 14 with understanding we can always, that's the right way it went from less than 10% up to 14. We raised it by no, and I think Mr. Stoll's presented a very good case for, as we find out how things stand, we can either leave it or adjust it in one direction or another. So I'll be willing to make the motion to adopt the budget.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Query made the motion to adopt the budget with the 14% contingency. Do I have a second? Ms. Davis seconded. Anybody have any questions or comments? Not all in favor, let me know by lifting hand. And all 4 board members present were in favor. Item A is approved. Item B is to approve creation of student worker positions in broadcast and media.
Last year, you gave us the opportunity to consider bringing student workers on in a couple of areas. We'd like to ask you to let us expand a little bit on that. And if you allow us to do that, it would, we hope, give us the beginnings of the next pathway that we could bring to the high school as well. This is not a pathway specific to broadcast, but this is connected. We already have some pathways at the high school that this works in. So we are not trying to create something new. We're trying to utilize something that we currently have until we can build it out. We would not go above 6 students. These students would work some during the day and some in the evenings covering athletic events or special things that happen. We hope to someday have that area right back there with directors of the activities going on in this room being run by students as well. So we see this as a great opportunity. If you'll remember, a few months ago, you gave us the permission to bring a group in and house some equipment in this building. And this gives us a chance to work off of that as well. So my recommendation to you is that you approve a creation of a student worker co-op experience in these areas of broadcast and media.
So one day they might replace Mr. Bowen and Mr. Gresham.
Fingers crossed.
It won't be tough.
You've heard the recommendation, so I have a motion. Ms. Davis made the motion to approve item B. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. McCray seconded. Any questions or comments? All in favor, let me know by lifting your hand. All 4 board members present were approved. Item B is approved. Item C is to approve a vendor for a traffic study at Garrard County High School.
So one of the challenges that we have in securing the property from Allison Abrasives or any other property that we might want to secure is that we have to jump through some hoops with KDE. So even though the property that you're purchasing from Allison Abrasives doesn't have any connection to travel, we still have to do this study. And the hope is that when we do this study, it will take care of everything that we have to do connected to any of the project. So we asked Klopfelter Samacar to take a look and do some investigation. They reached out to 4 different groups. They received 2 bids. Those 2 bids are in front of you. In a few minutes, I'm going to ask you on the next item to potentially approve the purchase of the property at the northeast corner of Maple and Paulding. I've already reached out to KDE and they're going to ask for a traffic study there too. So right now, anytime we add property, it appears that's what they're going to do. When we asked for this bid, we didn't know that we were going to be at that spot. We didn't hear from the mayor until Tuesday that it had been accepted. So what I would like for you to consider is the selection of a vendor with the idea that we can go back and put the 2 together and perhaps get a better price than we would have gotten if it was an independent one. So we can do a couple of different things here. Number one, you could approve this one as is and move forward. Or you could approve this with the understanding that if we could get a second bid from these 2 vendors that was consistent, that we can make a decision to go with the best bidder that you make a decision on tonight. Or we can simply table this until we get information back from these companies around doing both projects for us. Our hope is that, number one, it wouldn't do anything more than double the cost. Our real hope is that it would reduce the cost by doing 2 things, because it would be 2 separate studies, one done in town, one done at Garrard County High School. So it's worthy of a conversation tonight about which direction you'd like to go, but you do have those choices. And I don't like really sitting here having all these choices in front of you, but we didn't want you to approve this one tonight, knowing we might have to come back and ask for another one. And if we could put the 2 together and save the district some money, we felt like that's worthy of consideration as well.
Do y'all understand what he's recommending?
Is there a problem in delaying this decision tonight for the high school?
Just means you can't get the project started.
Right.
So Brad,
My
speak
only
to that.
question I don't have a good answer is, will they impact us on our potential to sell bonds if we don't have a traffic study completed on high school before we're there? I don't have an answer to that, but it rings into my head as to why we were pushing to get this one done. So I can get back with y'all with some more information on that. That would be my only concern, is if we delay another month, are we getting into the, approval?
So are you saying you want to delay this?
No, I'm saying, what if we delayed it?
Oh.
I'm asking what the repercussions would be if we delayed it.
Oh, okay.
But I'm wondering, once we vote on the second one, how quickly.
So all the savings I think you'll garner from this, it would be in man hours, it'll be in travel. Both of these companies are coming out of Lexington. So that per mileage rate is where I think we'll see a discount. That they may be willing, if they're already here, then they can spend a few hours at one site and drive up to a few more hours. The hours still get counted. It's that commute back and forth that we're cutting out of the cost of the second project. So that's where I see that we may have an opportunity for savings. I don't believe it would exceed twice the cost of what's in front of you, just because the studies will be so similar. But if there's potential, if you wanted to approve, you can look at saving the additional travel costs, is about what you would say.
So they could do both studies at the same time?
Let me ask this question. Should we approve the purchase of the property first on Paulden and then come back and address the idea of a joined study, to approve it and take whatever advantage we can of it? I just don't know. I'm just asking a question.
So changing the order is not necessarily something that has to happen. It's in this order because we didn't know we were going to have this situation occur. So you could go ahead and make a decision on who you want to do the study. And you could give me a little bit of latitude here to say, let's look at the bid. And if the second bid stays within the parameters that you see here, and you made a selection for one of these individual companies, then we could select them for the second one based on the decision you made here tonight. So just use as an example, there's a $300 difference. Felter Samakar actually has worked with the Palmer Group before, and that's who they would recommend, even though it's the higher of the two bids. Let's say we go and we ask for the second, and there's still a $300 difference. Whoever you had selected, that would be within that framework, and you could grant me the ability to go ahead and approve that based on tonight's vote and moving on with that second individual or second study, not second group. If I were to make a recommendation to you tonight, that's the recommendation that I would make, is that you select one of these, you allow us to ask for a second bid on the second project, and as long as it doesn't change the amount of money differently, that you allow us to just accept them as the second one. So we'd like to think that it wouldn't be anything significantly different, but if it was, then I would not move forward with it, and we would come back and make another decision. So we wouldn't overstep your all's authority. You just simply give me the ability to look at that second one and move forward if you could.
Good. You all understand what he's asking? Are we ready to make a motion?
I'm not sure what we're talking about, apples or oranges, or fruit salad. We'll make a motion on this. It's gonna have to be amended. We hadn't even discussed I had no idea what piece of property on Paulding.
It's the property you gave me permission to go to the city.
But I hadn't heard anything about
That was
whether the price, what the
Price
price
that you
was.
Oh, it
Price
was
that you
accepted.
Oh, so
Yeah.
the offer price was accepted.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
So I was just sitting here trying to figure this out. Of course, I have no problem with this, but I will vote no on the purchase of Paulding.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say. If you're gonna try to do a blanket, I'll just have to vote no on all of it, even though I am for this, to keep this project going. But if you put it all together and don't separate it out into two things, then I'll have to vote no on this one. Because I definitely am gonna vote no on.
And that's why I was saying, I agree that I don't like being in the spot where we're talking about doing something different. It's just based on this timing piece that we have here. So you still have the ability to say, you table it, and we can call a special meeting and come back and make a decision around that, if that's what you want to do, once we have information back on the bid. I don't know how long it would, what we would anticipate as far as information coming back from these two groups to do the second study.
As soon as I got here, I will call both of them, leave messages to their office, and they should be able to give me a new price tomorrow.
So if you want to delay this, but not delay it till next board meeting, we can call another board meeting to address that. And that separates the idea of trying to make a decision based on what might happen as opposed to what has happened. If that makes you more comfortable, that's probably not going to push things back so much if we had a board meeting next week.
With the first proposal on the high school side, I have no problem, but on the other, go ahead and I have no problem with voting to select them. It's the inclusion of the other property on there into the one blanket motion that I have a problem with, and I'm trying to be very open.
Yeah, and the only concern that I would have referencing that is if you approve this as is, then I'm not sure that we can look for the discount because we've already accepted this bid.
Well,
So-
I mean, it's a discount, but it's not a discount because we're already spending money on a piece of property on speculation. It's something that might occur in the near future.
But it would be a discount if you were doing the study. So that's kind of what you're looking at here is how to do that. So I'm happy to have another meeting next month, next week, if that makes you feel more comfortable, so that you know what the results are from both pieces. The decision on the Paulding property and then the decision from the two companies about what the cost is.
Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? Regardless of whether we do tonight or a special meeting, your decision on the property on Paulman is going to stay the same.
Yes.
So to me, is that with that in mind, if we were to, let's say, vote that we were going to accept the property on Paulman, then would that influence not having another meeting and take care of this and go ahead and do what you're saying, giving you the latitude and saving us a meeting? I guess that's where I'm coming from.
So it would save you a meeting, but it also does exactly what Mr. McQuarrie says, and that's make a decision based on something that you don't know what the outcome is going to be at this point, which is back to your point of order. So.
Well, would it be legal to go ahead and decide on item D, or since the agenda's already set?
So the agenda was set, we didn't change it at the beginning. I don't think you have the ability to switch the agendas now. So you can table C. And I don't know Robert's rules well enough to know if you can untable it later in the minutes, I mean, in the meeting. I doubt that you can because you have tabled it. So I think if you table, that's fine. We come back and meet about it later. And if that makes everybody more comfortable, then again, I don't think we're delaying it a significant amount of time. We couldn't call a meeting for tomorrow because I have to do 24 hours and we wouldn't, unless we wanted to have a meeting at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. But we don't even know that we have those figures tomorrow night. So you don't probably want to be driving in the middle of a football game tomorrow night either.
So what's the will of the body?
I know that we're all being congenial. We're trying to do what's in the best interest. I appreciate that. It's kind of difficult to make that decision right now, what would be in the best interest for us relative to making a very conscientious decision.
So I would suggest to you that the easiest thing to do is to table C, make a decision on D, and then following that, if we need to go back and ask for a second add to the proposal, then we could do that. Once we have that result, then I can give you a 24-hour plus notice, and we can have a meeting that addresses how we want to select a vendor for either a traffic study or 2 traffic studies, depending on where we are. And that's a little bit cleaner, and you're not giving me authority to do something without knowing what that would look like. So my recommendation has that would be my recommendation to you now on item C, is that we table this and move forward and come back and address it after that.
And if we could table it like no longer than a week, or as soon as, within the week.
So if we get the information tomorrow, I will probably look at calendars and shoot for like Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday, sound okay?
Fine.
Is it good?
There was nothing in that discussion that would imply that I wouldn't trust you to
Oh, no, look,
have the power to make that decision. We
I'm
got it
okay.
forward.
I'm okay not having that power.
Okay, you're good. No, you're good as
We don't
far
want
as.
it to last too long. I think if we could put a time, so no longer than.
So 2 or 3 days wouldn't,
Yeah, actually, I'll do my best to have y'all answers tomorrow. And still, you can set your meeting for one day next week. And it's just waiting a month, I think gets us
no, we
in
were,
trouble.
okay.
I make a motion then that we table C.
Okay, Mr. Hurt made the motion to table C for now. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Mr. Davis seconded. All in favor, let me know by lifting hand. Okay, all 4 board members present were in favor. So item C is tabled until Monday or Tuesday. And that brings us to item D, is to approve purchase of property at the northeast corner of Maple and Ball.
Board gave me permission to go to the mayor and then in turn to the council with a proposal of $15,000 to purchase the property in the northeast corner of Maple and Paulding. The city council approved that, I believe, on Monday night. And so I'm coming back to you to see if that is a decision that you all want to make, and that is the approval of that purchase. So based on your all's request that I take that to them, and they have answered it, my recommendation is that you approve that purchase.
You've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Hurt made the motion. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Ms. Davis seconded. Any further comments or questions? All in favor, let me know by lifting hand. All opposed, same sign. It was 3 to 2. Item D.
3 to 1.
3 to 1, I'm sorry, 3 to 1. Item E is to approve emergency certification for high school Spanish teachers.
We had hoped that this would be an option 6, and we cannot get it completed as an option 6. So because we can't get it completed as an option 6, we have to come back and ask for an emergency on this. So my recommendation is that you approve the emergency certification for the GCHS Spanish position for this school year.
And you've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I got a question. But that, I can wait.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll say it.
Okay, Mr. McCourt seconded, and Mr. Hart made the motion. Do you have a question?
Yes. How many years in a row have we purchased a certified Spanish teacher?
Well, I've been here for 3, so I'll say
Every
3.
year.
I'll say 3. I can't go beyond that.
And there's no solution by trying to teach another foreign language. We just have to teach Spanish. We can't change to anything else because there's no certified teachers out there that are willing to come and work in Garrard County, teach French, German, Eastern European, or whatever, Italian, or whatever. There's no other teachers that we can advertise for. And the students don't sign up for it. They sign up for Spanish. So amazingly, we only offer Spanish.
So my understanding, and the folks connected to the high school can correct me if I'm wrong, the high school has put out requests to students to determine if there's another language that they would be interested in. And they have not ever had enough interest in a language to give you that opportunity. Having said that, I don't know, and I wouldn't tell you that we couldn't hire somebody to do a different language. But at this point, if you hired somebody to do the different language and we forced students into that, it would be similar to the conversations about the pathways. We don't want to do that, so we want to make sure that they had the option. Pretty certain that we will can go back and show where that's been offered, and we can do that again. We can do it on a yearly basis to ask if there is a different language, and if there is, go looking for that individual. I'll be 100% candid and tell you I don't like doing the emergency. We had hoped it would be an option 6, and when that doesn't work out, then it falls back to us to figure out how to maintain somebody in that spot. So the option that you have if you don't approve this is that we don't have a teacher in that slot.
This is a problem all over the state and all over the country.
Yeah.
You know, same thing, and that's all we knew. I don't know what state it was in, but some,
But you remember
District.
when you went to Garrard County, there was 3 foreign languages offered. One of them's dead, but
Latin.
but you did have French and Spanish.
In the 8.5 years I was up at the Judicial Center working court, in all the courts that I worked, the primary interpreter that came in was Spanish. There's more need for that, and all the time, they brought somebody in to sign, and then there was only one Ukrainian interpreter came in, so I guess where I'm coming from there, it seems like we're having more of the Hispanic population, people, speaking Spanish. Maybe something that just a real necessity for us, but it's slow to grab hold too.
I'm not saying we cut Spanish completely out, but I'm saying that if you only offer one, that cuts the selection process down, and after a period of years, with only one class, then what are they gonna sign up for? I know I've had several say that they would like to take other ones, but there's nothing else on. It's been going on for 3 years, and it just seems like it's consistently, we can't get somebody to speak Spanish, and I know there's shortages. We can always seem to drag up somebody to fill a math, you can always find another teacher in another slot for English and math and chemistry and science, and I hope I'm not leaving out any on purpose. But it seems like if we have to get an emergency certification. And I know this year we've got several, not just Spanish, there's several others that we have emergency certification. But that's because of the shortage, and everybody knows that. But there's a difference between having excuses and reasons. And after 3 or 4 or 5 years, it just turns into an excuse. In my view. I mean, I could not in my work when I worked in public work of the same excuse every year, just to eventually wore thin. There had to be an underlying problem that needed to be addressed. So that's where I'm coming from. I hate to be a problem. I just had to say what I had to say.
All righty. Anybody else? We got a motion and a second. All in favor, let me know by lifted hand. All 4 board members present were in favor, so the item E is approved. Item F is to approve emergency certification for district English language teacher.
So if you all recall, we asked you to give us permission to transition from an English language classified position to a certified position. And you all gave us permission to do that. And again, what we felt like we were going to be able to do is option 6. And we've gone through everything that we should go through with that. We're continuing to explore this one as we move on from this and hope that we can remove the emergency certification and get it to option 6, but right now we can't. And so I'm making the same recommendation from the previous one, except this one's on an EL position. This one is a first time. So I will tell you that, try to put that as a victory if I can. So my recommendation is that you approve this emergency certification for district EL teacher.
Surprise, surprise, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Query made the motion, Mr. Hurd seconded. Any further comment on this certification? All in favor, let me know by lifted hand. 4 board members present were in favor. Item F is approved. Item G is to approve update to the expense reimbursement policy. This is our first reading. I think all board members have had a copy of that. I hope you've had an opportunity to look it over. Mr. Stoll, do you recommend?
I will recommend it. Obviously, you don't have to take any action tonight. Just for clarification purposes, you will see linked both certified and classified. The idea here is that currently, almost every time somebody applies for reimbursement, they're outside the policy. We have a policy that says that they have to submit within 1 week, and most times people can't make that deadline. So rather than have people be outside policy, my recommendation is going to be that you move that to a month, allow more time to make that decision. At the same time, we're also going to make a recommendation that instead of funding reimbursements at the current 40 cents per mile, that we adjust that to align with what the state does. And the state reviews it every quarter and submits based on the current reimbursement rate. So you could have 1 month where somebody was being reimbursed at 40 cents, and the next month it could be, I mean, the next quarter it could be 41 cents. Next month it could be 42, it could drop back to 39. So it's built around that. Now I will tell you without any hesitancy that 40 cents is not what it will be. It will be higher than that because at the current gas prices, 40 cents doesn't cut what's out there. But we currently receive that information already, so it would just be transitioning this into our policy. It's not a huge hit to the district. It is a little bit of appreciation for those people who pay for their own travel. So when we roll back next month, my recommendation is going to be to approve both components of that.
I don't have any idea myself what the state rate is right now. In this quarter, it was, there was one time I do remember, but that's been a while ago, it was 58 cents. But like you said, it's a quarterly rollback. It could be 52 cents. It could be 57. You know, you never knew what it was until they established it each quarter.
We've never had to use it, but Ms. Coffey gets an update every quarter. So we don't have to do anything different. We just have to apply that. That's all it comes down to. So that'll be my recommendation next month.
Okay, and the same thing for item H to approve update to advertising in schools policy.
At the, during the primary election, there were some questions that came up about signage being on our property. And so we had told you back then that we would come to you with an update in the policy, and this will update and get you to the spot by the time we get to the November election. And what we're going to ask you to do is approve a policy that says there's no political ads on our property. By doing that, we don't have to say that it's an election only. We're just saying that totally. So again, I'll make that recommendation to you next month.
All right, thank you, sir. Item I is to approve surplus of the transportation vehicles.
So occasionally we come to you and ask you to surplus some stuff. We haven't done a property that has been vehicles recently. So I've attached for you all of our policies connected to it, and we would like to request that you allow the Transportation Department to surplus 3 items: a 2007 International bus, a 2009 Chevy 3500 service van, and a 1999 Chevy Silverado 4x4 truck. They would be sold by sealed bid. They will be junked, so it's not something that's going to be out on the road in any capacity. So we would ask for your approval of that, and that's my recommendation, is that you approve the identified transportation vehicles as surplus.
Thank you, sir. You've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I move.
Ms. Davis made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Heard second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor, let me know by lifted hand. All 4 board members present were in favor. Item I is approved, which brings us to item.
So Brother Jerry,
Oh, I'm sorry.
we've had people out here working while we have been here to try to figure out the Robert's Rules component. So I'm going to be careful how I read this. If I'm not mistaken, this is coming from David Mead, who serves as our new representative. And he would obviously have a pretty good handle on Robert's Rules because of his position in the legislature. So the question was asked of him, can an item be brought back up later that has been tabled? His response to that was yes. So it was given more clear definition. More questions were asked of that than just, can you do that? It was what happens when there's an order change and things of that nature. He's clarified that for it to be tabled, there has to be an action taken, and you took that. He clarified that it had to be addressed at the next board meeting or it would die. So we're not necessarily going to arrive at that. Next question that was asked of him is, can it come back up at another point in the meeting? His answer to that was yes. So you have approved the Paulding piece. What you haven't heard yet is what the amounts are. So you can leave it, but I wanted to make sure I shared that with you so that if you did want to take an action and bring that back up, that you could.
Okay, so what's the will of the body?
I would like for us to discuss it. I don't think that us coming back together for another meeting at the cost, also paying us to another meeting. I'm not in favor of that. So if we could make that decision tonight, and also if it could expedite the decision for the high school, then I would be in favor of making a motion that we,
First, you have to untable it.
I make a motion that we untable it.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have a motion second? Any discussion on untabling this?
That's the reason I want a second, so if we have some discussion, we can talk about it.
Okay, all right, all in favor of untabling this, let me know by lifted hand. Okay, 3 for and 1 against. The item C is untabled, and we're back on approving a vendor for traffic study at Garrard County High School. And if you recall, Mr. Stowe brought up the fact that Clark Dietz bid was $6,200, Palmer was $6,500. We don't know about the second study yet. So give me some advice about how to make a motion if we do.
You have a recommendation?
So my recommendation would be maybe not to exceed 13,000, that's double the cost. That gives us the leeway to try to negotiate down. I don't suspect, I'm not 100% sure on where the property is. I pulled it up. I think I know which one it is. The street, 2 city streets intersecting onto one county or one state highway should not exceed what we're doing, which is essentially Crab Orchard and 39 again. So I feel like it should not exceed the cost of the current study you have before you. So, which, whether you go with our recommendation at the 65 number, you go with lower cost, which is 6,200. So you could not to exceed, 12,400 or not to exceed 13,000. And then we'll work to negotiate it down. And then, again, I think all you're going to save is the travel costs. You can look on that, I think they broke out the travel costs here, it's that big ballpark.
And
I
that,
don't have it in front of me.
that travel cost is probably gonna be equivalent to another board meeting.
Well, you're paying somebody not only travel costs, but you're paying the time cost to go with that. So $75, $80, or $100 an hour plus their travel down here, travel back. You do that for a week. If they're already traveled down here, cut out a week's worth of travel and travel time. So that's where I think your savings will come, not from the actual work. And I could be, it's no savings at all. I would make a recommendation as not to exceed, if y'all are comfortable with that.
But if we do come back in a couple of, 2 or 3 days for another board meeting.
I have an exact number.
Right, but at the same time, that's not going to impact our bonding.
No, if you're coming back that soon, it's if you waited till October's meeting to try to do it, then October, getting it done before November, December, and I don't know what they're saying. I asked for immediate, are you ready to work? And both of these companies were ready to start up on approval. A month from now, they may have 5 other projects ahead of us. So we'll be getting into the danger of not moving. If y'all want to hold till next week and approve with an exact price, that's not going to slow us down at all. So.
We're gonna table it, so we won't table it again. Or you wanna go ahead and vote on it with what he said, whichever one you choose, not to exceed 12,400 or not to exceed 13,000.
I kind of feel like Mike on this. I feel kind of uncomfortable with this at this particular point. I think I would like to make a motion that we reenact the table and.
Okay.
I don't see where we gained anything at all. We actually did what we needed to do, but we did it reverse. We could have went ahead and approved this and then voted on the other one separately. Still giving it, I'm a bit confused, but that's not difficult for me anyway. But I agree with
because of the
Mr.
confusion. I just don't want
agree
us
with
to.
Because if it comes in double, that's gonna take the price, move that price up about a third more than we get for the whole property. They may come in with a six, you don't know what they're gonna do. It may be another, they may add a $5,000 bid to come and do that small piece of property in town.
I think it will be essentially that, it's.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
see, you're taking the purchase price and then adding $6,000 on top of that. So the purchase price is not that good considering you gotta give more than we initially agreed to give.
Well,
That was
it's
my,
actually
that's my thinking
better
all along.
than the price that actually went into the property itself and what the city had into it. We got, on that part, we got a real deal, you know. On this other, just an addition to making everything right.
So you made the most done, table it again for Tuesday, is that right?
Well, second is motion to table.
And you seconded the motion. All right, all in favor to retable it, let know, okay. So maybe Monday or Tuesday, you'll, tomorrow,
should know something tomorrow.
We'll catch you up as soon as we know.
we'll schedule. So Monday or Tuesday, either one's okay with it? Board members?
Okay, make sure that we let Dr. Lamb know. Don't forget Dr. Lamb.
Oh, no, she had a meeting that she couldn't work there, she couldn't make it, so, yeah, we'll let her know, for sure. Okay. All right, we come to item 6.
I make a motion with adjourn.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. McQuarrie to adjourn, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hurd, second, all in favor, let me know by the lift of the hand. All 4 board members present were in favor, we are adjourned. Thank you all for being here, we appreciate all the input and all the interest, and all the folks who have joined us on social media. Hope you have a good night.